Hello everyone. In this session, we will be finishing off the top bar. So the top bar contains the login functionality. And as you can see, once we click, it allows you to go to the login page, and you can also click here for sign up. These two things are both modals. A modal is something that prevents you from interacting with the rest of the user interface, and they can typically be dismissed either by clicking on some kind of stuff or clicking away in what we call a mask. We already had the layout, but in this case, we will now need to actually implement the functionality. First, we need to enable login. So go to the settings, and we're going to turn off email. There's also SSO and stuff, but SSO stands for single sign-on, but we will ignore those. We'll just be using username. Okay, so once you click on the button, we have a model. So let's add a model. We will be using custom layout because, as you can see from here, there's a lot of things going on in this screen instead of just a default model. Default model has like a title, a message, and yes or no. Okay, so going to the edit mode, let's add in the things in sequence. We'll add a view that is this thing, cross. So within that view, we'll adjust its size to make that circle thing. We'll change positioning type to absolute because this thing will always be at the top right of the model. So top right, and it'll be 16 and 16, and let's make a circle. Typically, the way you make a circle is just by adding border radius. We have a radius, make it 24. That makes it a circle. Once we change the background color, you'll be able to see that. And this color is the grayish color. And if we look at it, it's now a circle. So let's add an image inside it for the cross. And this image is going to be much smaller. So it's half the size of its outside thing. And also now it's kind of floating to the top of our little circle. So let's make it centered. That's centering it. And we will upload my little cross. All right, so now we have the cross. Okay, and then once somebody clicks on it, we want it to just disappear. So let's call it hide model. That'll be it. And then this one will change its name to login model. And the next thing we'll add is, you can see this thing becomes darker as we hover over it. And that's also something you have to configure. So once you go to state, and then you have like a hover state plus a normal state. Okay, and then we are going to change the hover state's color to something that's slightly different. We'll make the background color to this bluish gray. So once that's done, go to here and see if we click, if we hover over, we get that hovering effect. Let's get out of here. We have to go back into the edit mode. Okay. Now, the other thing we want to do is like adjust the size of the model, because the size of the model is going to be this wide. And then if we make it narrower, it becomes narrower and more narrower, right? So we are going to make the width 50% of our screen. And it will also add a maximum width of 700 so that it doesn't become too wide. As you can see, once it's wide enough, the width of the login page wouldn't change. So if I close that part, you can see it doesn't really change. Okay, and we've done that. We'll make it fully white. And in fact, let's add that to our theme as well. We'll call it fully white. So let's make this fully white. So what we need to add is now the big word login. That'll be text. And then we will also need to add in the label, username, and the input boxes. Let's first fix this guy. We call it login. It's going to be, and we need to push it down, right? A couple of ways we can push things down. One is using padding of its parent or using margin of itself. In this case, since we do want the top part and the bottom part to be equidistant, it's much easier to use padding for its parent. So let's just add a padding of 100. Also, on the sides, you also need some padding because we don't want it to stick to the side. Let's also add a padding 60. So now that gets pushed down. And we also make the height of the whole thing just fit. And then let's make it larger as usual. Let's make it 30 in size. And you can see now, because the line height is not enough, it kind of gets cut out. So we will make the line height also larger. We'll make it medium. Okay, now you have like a bold login word. Now you need a username and password entrance. So let's add that. In fact, if you look at this thing, you can see that there is gap between all of these things. So we will mimic this layout. So this layout is actually more complex than it appears to the eye. So we can't just put the login here directly. First, let's rename it login model title or something. It has to go into a box. So in order to get that box, we'll add a new view here, and we'll move this text into the view. So one way you can do it is by just cutting and then pasting. So that goes into it. And this guy, let's just make it, the gap is 12 or something. Let's just add it in first. We'll add a gap in here. And in terms of the width, let's make it 100. Sorry, let's make it 100%, but it was a maximum. Actually, we don't even need the maximum because we have the padding of its parent. So the 200 on the two sides can't be taken up. That's good. We got a 12 in the gap, and we will need add a new, we call it the login model center view. Login model center view. Within here, we will need to add a text for the username, but actually there's more than that. There are two texts. One is that star to the left, the star to the left, and then there's text over here. So what we need to do is, instead of just a text, we have to add another view. And you can see the views are everywhere. Anytime you want to adjust any kind of layout, you need to add a view. So this is a label, username label box, and we want it to be from left to right. And its size, inside it, let's just add two text things. And the first one is just going to be a star. Second one is going to be username. And okay, you can see that it's now in here, but it's kind of stuck in the middle. So let's make it that the width 100% and the height, let's just make it fit. And we do want a little bit of gap between the username and the star. So let's just add a bit of gap in the view. So I think a 2 should work. Now it's kind of spaced out. I think that's a 2. And we want to change the color of these texts. So that's the fancy black that we had. And this little text thing is going to be this blue thing that is like a theme color. And the font, we will adjust that as well to 14 and 25. That's good enough. That's fairly good already. Now we just need to add the input box there. So let's add a text input. And this input box will have it 100%. And in terms of height, it's going to be just a fixed value. Make it 58. And this guy, the height of that should now be changed to fit. Okay, so placeholder. Let's just call it please enter your username. And that's what we have. So this group, this one and this guy is, they should be inside the same group because we have to reuse it. So again, we're gonna put another view here. We'll just put another view in here and then just grab those two things. Cut, paste. And if you can't tell the hierarchy, let's call this, give it a name, label, and input view. Make it 100%. And in terms of height, that'll just be a fit. And this guy, this text input should now go inside this thing here. Let's call it the star. And this one is username label, username input box. Now we have renamed everything. And if we wanted to add a gap inside here, we can do that too. So let's say a 5 in gap. Now it has a gap. We also want to delete its background color. So the reason we went through all that trouble to create this label and input view so that we can copy it. We'll copy it. Actually, we can just duplicate that. Yeah, we have duplicated this thing and then we call it this password label. And inside that is gonna be password. And inside here, we'll just rename it to password. Okay. So now we have two identical, almost identical things in here, and then we will add two more things. One is another button, and then the sign up link. We should add a button over here. We call it login, and then for the design, it will just say login. We'll have the size of it to be, the width will be equal to the width of the parent, and its height is going to be fixed to 58. Okay, and then the color, the background color, we're gonna use that blackish thing that we had. And at the bottom of that, we won't add another element, which is a link. Okay, making sure that we are selecting the correct container. So we've selected the center view container, which has all the gaps already set up. Then we'll add a text thing at the bottom now. We call it a sign up link. Okay, and here's don't have an account, sign up. Okay, and then we just need to change a couple of fonts, make that 16, and this one, let's keep it 20. It's a medium thing, and then the color of that, we'll be using that theme. Actually, let's make it regular. It's a bit too bold. 25. Keep that 25. Okay. And the width of this doesn't really matter because you're going to be centered anyways, right? So now this thing is out, it's good, except this background color. So we get rid of that background color. And also for the model, we also want it to be rounded because that looks nicer, right? So let's make it rounded to 10 pixel border radius. Now we have a rounded thing. Check out the result. We click, we have model, and the moment it doesn't do anything, because if I click on any of that, nothing changes, right? That's not what we want. That's easily fixable. Let's also make this thing make gap slightly larger to 20. Okay, now it looks a bit better. Very similar to this. That's almost identical. Good. Now we just need to hook up things. First of all, login. That's clearly going to log us in. So let's search for the username login. That's what we entered. Username login. Okay, and where do we get the input from? And this is one of the things that sometimes trip people up. You have to understand that anytime you use an action, you sometimes need to pass in inputs. You need parameters. And in this case, you can choose things from the screen. And that's what you have here. And then also, once you finish logging in, you want to get out of the login model. So that will give us the hide login model as well. And if you got a failure, for example, you pass in the wrong username or the wrong password, you should call it, you should tell the user. So just show a toast, usually good enough. And let's just call it login failed, simple enough. So let's try that out. Because we haven't had a way to register anything, everything I enter here is going to be a failure. Oh, by the way, you can see this is now in plain text. That's something we need to change as well. But when I click in, it says login failed. So as expected, and this thing, we need to make it a password field. So that should get it fixed. Every time I type it, yeah, now it's a password field. Good. Next thing is we need to be able to let people sign up. And how do we do that? Well, that's a different model. So we are going to do another model, and maybe I'll just copy that just in case. And then go in here, we call it the sign up model, and we'll make this slightly larger. Again, it'll be 50%, keeping it the same as the login model. And we won't touch the height yet, and same maximum width. All right, and then let me paste in my thing here. Okay, so the sign up model is again going to have, it's going to be fit, and also I'll give it a padding of 100 on either side and 60 in top of bottom. So now you already have this. Obviously, it's going to be slightly different because we're going to sign people up instead of logging people in. So let's rename everything again. So sign up, model title, and we will be calling it, I think a good thing is just call it sign up. Should be good enough. All right, and the next thing is going to be username, but you wanted to enter, you want people to repeat the password. So also we are missing that little cross. We will do that later. So we'll copy this. We'll copy the parent of this. Let's go to the structure. We're in sign up models, and let's rename this sign up model center view and label and input view. Okay, that's good enough. So rename this username, password. Every time you rename things, it might be tedious, but it's very important. You will get very confused very soon if you don't do that. I want it to be white. And now we're in this center view. We want to add another element. So let's just copy this. Actually, let's just duplicate, right? And let's call it password re-entry label view. Let's open it up, password input, call it re-entry. That says retry, I meant re-entry. Okay, and then this guy, I will just call it password re-entry label box. And this one we'll call it password label box. Okay, we have the star, the password label, we have the star, the password re-entry label, and this thing's gonna say re-enter password. Please re-enter your password. And that looks good enough. This guy, instead of login, we'll call it sign up. And obviously we no longer have this link. And for sign up, we're gonna call it sign up. And in here, instead of logging in, we will be signing up, register. Username register, and we are going to use the username input and the password input. But again, you see that we need to check for whether those two things match, right? Password have to be of a certain length, and they have to matching. They have to be identical. Okay, so how do we do that? At the moment when you're in a model, you can actually see all the input of a model, which is incorrect. It's very difficult to tell between which input it is. So we're going to call this sign up username input. And this one we'll call it sign up password input. And this guy here, we'll call it, we're just gonna add sign up here. So now we need to get to actually sign things up. We are going to do a conditional because we want to be checking for the inputs. We can change the conditional name to, has valid input. I think you can also do has valid input, right? The first case, we'll call it valid, and the second case, we'll call it invalid. So for the valid case, we're going to sign people up. We search for username register, and that will take in the sign up username input and then the sign up password input. Now, what makes something valid? Your sign up username should be not null, and your sign up password should be not null, and your sign up password should be the same as the verification one, the reentry. And also, like, you can also do something like your the length of your password is exceeding something. So to get the length of something, you have to get a formula. So string length of your sign up password input is greater than or equal to 8. So these are the conditions that has be satisfied in order for the valid branch to be executed. And if nothing matches, it will go to the next branch. And in this next branch, as it says, the branch will always be executed when the condition is empty. So if this one doesn't match, it will go to that and always execute it because there's no condition on here. So in this case, if it's invalid, we will say bad entry for sign up. And what we need to do here now is once we've finished signing up, we need to hide ourselves and just go back, right? So we'll do hide model, hide the sign up model, and that's good enough. Okay, so one more thing that I forgot to do is if you're in the login model, we also need to show, we need to hide ourselves when we go to sign up. So not just sign, we're not only hiding a new model, but we're also hiding ourselves. So once that's hidden, let's try this out. Don't have an account, sign up. In here, let's call it Jiang Yao Kai 0, bad password. We should get something that doesn't like me. Okay, so let's keep that one and make it longer. Which just call it password. That's long enough. Still not happy. Password. This time it should be happy. So let's click on that. Hey, it's dismissed. Now you can see that this is still stuck in the login condition. So the reason is that we haven't really configured this conditional view here. It's going to be by default always not logged in. So let's move this, and then once it's logged in, obviously the ID of logged in user is not null, or you could just do something like logged in user self is not null. So we've done that. So you can see that I'm now already in that state. And also, oh, I forgot to configure the logout thing, and that should be easy enough. Once we're in logged in, we go to the logout button and we say logout. Very simple. So once I click on that, I'm now back into the login thing. Oh, I think I'm missing that little guy too. This little view, and let's just go into here and paste it in. Okay, so that should be good enough. And also we want this to be hiding things. So hide model. And for the previous one, we also want this to, okay, this one's hiding the model. So that's good. Let's try that out. Click on this, dismissed. And once I click on that, it also hides. Okay, so that's good. So now let's try logging in with something wrong. It should say login failed. And if I use the correct password and username, I'll be logged in, and you can see the top side now changing. So in this session, what we've done is configuring the top bar and doing all the login and sign up. Thank you for following along, and we'll see you in the next session.